Okay, can everybody hear me? I'm gonna try to boom back and forth. Everybody good?
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate your patience as we were getting everything set up. Please know that when we talk through everything today, there's candy, notepads, all sorts of great stuff up here. If you need to grab something, please feel free to do so. Wanted to talk briefly about questions and comments. If there's questions throughout, please just raise your hand, shout them out, let us know. We want to make sure to share those questions across both kind of sections here. I know that the room isn't super conducive to everybody seeing everybody, but in the hopes of having a lab and a space where everyone can work, we want to do that. Before we get started, I'm a huge fan of AI. It's written the majority of my talks since ChatGPT came out. And I asked ChatGPT this morning for a funny physical facilities joke, and this is what it spit back out. It said, "Why did the Scarecrow become a successful facilities manager?"
Why?
Because he was outstanding in his field. So I thought, oh, you guys are going to think that's lame. So then I asked it, tell me a funny BYU physical facilities joke. And it did that like thinking thing, you know, where it like does dots. And then a picture of myself showed up. So I think it's broken. I think I broke it. But we are grateful to have you here today. We want to talk through a lot of what we're planning on doing. We're excited for this huge transition for us to go from paper time cards to electronic time tracking. We see a ton of efficiencies in this. It's going to be awesome. And we wanted to get supervisors to help spread the word out. And so look to your left and look to your right. These are the upper echelon of physical facilities. So that's why we brought the candy. So thanks for being here. So to get started off, did everybody get a chance to use the QR code to download the Workday app on their phones? Has everyone done that?
I downloaded it, but I didn't know how to sign in. Were we supposed to sign
Okay.
in?
Yeah, so to sign in, do they just need to type in 10 at 8?
So you'll,
Come over to
yeah.
whoever.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you're not in 10 and 8 on your mobile app yet.
Yeah.
I think it's silly.
Okay, so when you open up,
So
so we click on it.
Now I gotta be in 8.
Es muy importante.
You want me on 8 now? All right. It wasn't working before. I'm in 8. That no works good.
And then you'll eventually be able to change.
So we're even like.
Yeah. This is working. Unless that's the sign.
I did it. Yeah, I set it all up yesterday. I don't know that I proxied as you, but I did set some stuff up.
I love it. I think that's so protective about it. Because it's been happening over the years of this training.
Oh, yes.
True. So it's really amazing.
It's gonna save you from having to do choosing stuff later, so just something you'll remember. Are you good? You're good. You good now? Did you get in? Yep.
Thank you, thanks for.
Yeah.
can you get in on the web? You're in on there? Okay. I'm sorry. We will. I apologize. All right. Yes.
It's being
Yes.
persnickety. But I can't log in. I'm not sure.
I think that one, CSR controls.
Are you able to, there's,
No, I'm not.
yes, that's right.
Are they in 8?
They're in 11.
Oh, are you helping them get to 8?
I don't know who's gonna get the message.
This guy needs some help over here to the last, he's just switching computers.
No, I'm just kidding.
Can you go to your settings?
You guys, you're being BYU 8. We're at 11. You're 8. Okay, so I'm there at the top where you see 11. So come here. 11.
Who else?
Take out 11. Put in.
Okay.
I did that, this came up.
Yeah,
The other guy was.
okay, perfect. We figured it out. Nice to hear it. Okay. Can you, so just, oh, there we go. That's nice.
Well, usually not.
Alright, workday. Camera, we got the camera off.
Remember, there's those two meetings like.
I have 37.
Oh, sweet.
Have fun. Come on. I know.
You're number one, Jeremy. Oh, you
Hey,
have 25.
I think I'm gonna set you up with a different login. Is that okay? Okay.
I have to do the whole push.
If they, some people are having access, like accessing the camera isn't on their, application, so that was another issue we found. Yeah, just to add to.
Okay, perfect.
That's what you get, right? Yeah.
Of the marriage.
If
All this stuff is all.
Did she get you already?
Somebody, another guy.
Yep, I'm coming.
Jacob, you're the guy in the back? Red and in the far corner.
Okay.
Okay, raise your hand if you still need help. You got both up? You don't need to raise your hand. Good, great, thanks.
Oh, I don't think you were in the tenant. That's gonna be a different issue.
Oh, okay.
What, are you new?
Are you recent?
I've never seen this man before.
I know.
I've never.
Walked in off this.
He must have just wanted to.
He followed his hand.
Yeah, it always has all
Okay, hey, Jake, why don't you buddy up with Nathan
Yeah, that's fine.
and just
Yes,
go
I'll
there.
let you know if we hear anything.
Tag, while she's working on yours, why don't you buddy up with Michelle?
You picked the wrong. You picked the temporary one.
Okay, now that we've got everybody set up for the most part,
So is this for everyone or?
Yes, it's not single sign-on though.
Yeah, it's not something.
So we want to talk through a few different questions that we're hoping to address today, and then if there's additional questions, please feel free to reach out. What are my responsibilities as a manager in Workday? Why do I need to allocate my time? Why are we configured the way that we are? Will I be able to submit event time on the timesheet? Who can see timesheets for employees? Who will help employees have the time tracking questions? And why aren't absences auto-trimmed? So these are just a few of the topics that we hope to address today. We're going to talk a little bit specifically about the system, do some demos on various aspects of time tracking of absence, and absence is kind of a new term for us, meaning sick and vacation and other leaves, but we're going to talk about that today as well. Before we get too far down the road, I do want to introduce the team here that's been so helpful this morning or this afternoon. This is Shannon. Shannon is on program grant and works in payroll. Megan has been helping out as well. Got Tony in the corner back here, and then Garrett is right here helping as well. But we'll have Shannon kind of explain a little bit more about what SAS is and explain a little bit about Workday.
Okay, thanks. So just to introduce Workday, you may be familiar with different programs, right? Word, Excel, Outlook, those kinds of things. This operates a little bit different. So Workday is considered, or what is known as software as a service. It's abbreviated as SaaS. I think we used to have a SaaS department, right? Didn't we have a SaaS? That's how old we are, some of us, right? So the whole point of a SaaS is it allows users to connect to and use cloud-based apps over the internet. So all of that is to say that Workday, it doesn't live at BYU. It's not on any BYU server. There is no computer support team for it here. There's no nothing. It lives in the cloud on a server someplace else. I'm gonna guess India, right? So it probably lives there, and we access it through the internet. So hence the URL, we were playing with it, right? The numbers you were playing with, that's the different tenants. And you're going to hear tenant a lot. Tenant refers to, you can think of it like an apartment building, right? You rent a space and you're a tenant in that space. And that's the way that Workday works. We rent space in Workday and they give us a tenant. And we are given numbers. We have numbers like 1 through 15. Is it 1 through 15? 1 through 12? Whatever it is, it's a lot. It's confusing sometimes.
13, but we don't like that number, so 15.
Yeah, so 15.
Or 14.
We avoid 13. Anyways, so we're going to be operating in a tenant, but the go live is going to be a different tenant, and you won't have to worry about these numbers in the future. All right, examples of just cloud-based systems. You have Zoom. So Zoom, if you've ever used Zoom, it's a cloud-based thing. If you've ever heard of Salesforce, it's cloud-based. Or Box, you have Box here on campus, right? Box, if you didn't know it, is a cloud-based system too. So those are some that you may have interacted with. And the key to SaaS is that, well, there's a couple, but there's no programming code changed by BYU. You can't change it. And there's only a few things that we call configure. So we can configure things to maybe operate a little bit different. You may not know, but Walmart uses Workday. So how we configure the timesheet to work for you is going to be different from the timesheet that works for Walmart, right? So we can configure it a little bit different. Yeah, question already?
So then if we have suggestions about things, we can't really go making them because you're not going to change it.
Some. The answer is some. If it's in the realm of a configurable item, then it's something that we can look at. And so in those previous meetings where some of the feedback was, yes, those are things we're going to change. You may recall, for some that were in a previous training that we did, I think we stated that there were some that we were not going to be able to do, and that's those. Right? So if there's, you may know people, or as we presented to OIT, they're like, well, this will be easy, you just have to change this web page. I'm like, yeah, but this is SaaS. And so we're not going to be just changing code. It's not like PeopleSoft. So there's no customizations to it. It's delivered, we use it, we have things that we can set up and can configure so it does certain things for us, for the way we operate our business. But as a whole, it is what it is, right? And we're at the point now in the program where the foundation's poured, the floors are done, the walls are up, the roof is on, even the carpet's laid. So if we're going to tweak something, we might be able to change the color to the room, or we might be able to swap out a faucet, but there's not a whole lot that we're going to be able to go in and do heavy changes on, right? So what you're seeing is pretty close to what you're going to see at go live. All right, so that's kind of what SaaS, what Workday is. Inside of Workday, you're going to find what is called an employee type. So some of you here, you may be familiar with the term administrative, right? Administrative employees, staff employees, we have student employees. Well, those terms kind of go away because it's not, we changed some of the terms when we moved to Workday. So we have executive level employees. So President Reese, he would qualify. Other vice presidents would qualify. Some of our coaching staff, they qualify. And then we have staff. Everybody here is a staff employee, except for the one dude who was a student, which I don't see anymore. So he's like, I'm in the wrong room. I shouldn't be, right? He's like, I'm out. Yeah, this is crazy. So we have staff, and we have staff exempt. Exempt means that you're exempt from overtime. That's Gary. So Gary, poor guy, he works 50 hours. It's just too bad, right? It's no overtime. If your staff non-exempt, you get overtime. I imagine a lot of you here are that, and your students would be that, right? Especially in the summertime. Then we have students. That's an employee type. So as you can see just from the slide, we've kind of grouped people together, right? We've identified the types of people we have working here at BYU. We have students, we have faculty. I don't know of any faculty that work in PF, but hey, they could. There is fixed term contract, which is really a continuing education designation. And then we have, of course, our seasonal, which is our FSY kind of folks. Yeah.
Just to delineate, I guess, what makes the difference between an executive and a non-exempt staff member?
And I think you mean an exempt staff member?
Yeah. Yeah, an exempt, like, I think Greg Cook's in the room. Like, what would Greg be?
I don't know, Greg. Are you an administrative employee right now?
I don't get overtime.
You don't get overtime.
So I'm exempt, right?
He's still exempt staff.
He's exempt. So he's exempt staff. So the difference between him and President Reese, there's some criteria that HR looks like. Yeah,
So
one of them is levels, man, right?
The only executive that would be in our division would be Matt Giles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Everybody
so
else would fall as staff.
Matt and up with the executive. with the
Correct.
rest of
Yes.
us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So those are kind of the different employee types. This matters as you go into Workday and you're trying to look at people, right? And you're trying to call out, maybe you're looking at a report and you want to see your students. You're going to be looking for an employee type. So we're going to throw out a lot of terms at you today. The challenge for you will be to remember. So hence the pad and paper. You want to write stuff down because the stuff we're going to tell you today, it's going to pay off dividends a whole bunch later. So you're going to want to understand these employee types and kind of digest it a little bit, right? You want to be like, okay, I get this. Not too hard, right? Employee types. Okay. So in Workday, there's a lot of ways to do the same thing. We're going to not overwhelm you by showing you every possible combination of how to do something, but we're going to show you a couple because you may prefer one over another. Totally great. Megan has ways she looks things up in the system. I have the way I do things. There's a lot of ways to look at things. There's a lot of shortcuts too, which you'll get when you get experience. Those will come to you. You'll be like, oh yeah, I can do this, and you'll probably pick up speed as time goes on. we're going to talk about today of basically finding some employees. So finding employees in Workday. And let me just kind of jump and make sure let me just redo this share here and kind of get things set up for the web. So I'm jumping in. And I'm going to jump into BYU 8 as well. And let me share the screen again so you can all see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay. So this is me. I'm in BYU 8. So if I want to look somebody up, I would come up here. This bar should always be at the top for you. Wherever you go, this piece up here, this search bar, this is going to be it's going to be your best friend inside of Workday. You may be used to Microsoft Word, right, where you have quick menu or quick file or whatever that we used to do. This operates differently than that. So don't think of it in the way you would use Excel or Word or Outlook even. You're going to have this bar up at the top, and it's going to drive how you're going to do things. So when you want to look somebody up, so if I wanted to look up an employee here on campus, who did I get? Jake? Was it Jake, right?
What is Greg?
Greg?
Hook, H-O-K.
No, but Jake Lee is good, since we have a boss. Jake Lee, please try again.
There was a Jake. Is there a Jake Lee?
Jake's here somewhere too.
He's in the
He's
corner.
our IT guy. Anyone?
He's almost there. He's almost there.
Where did he go? Oh,
He's trying again. He's
Okay.
in!
he was trying again.
Okay.
All right.
So my last name is Hook, two O's,
2 O's.
H-O-O-K-E.
Thank you, Greg. All right. So I can look Greg up by just typing his name. If I wanted to find somebody because I knew their employee ID number, now you may not know this. This is kind of a payroll thing, right? But like if I wanted to pull up Pam Wilson in my office, I've tested on Pam in years. I think I know her number better than my own. So I could type her number in and it pulls up too. So again, multiple ways you can do things. You can try a name, you can try a number. If you try a name, which happened here recently, and multiple people showed up with the same name, then you might be like, okay, what's this guy's number? Or what department do they work in, right? As you can see right here, it says Senior Payroll Specialist in Payroll. Do you see that? So there's things that can help you out to make sure you're doing the right thing. So who wants to be my guinea pig? Who can I proxy as? Remind me your name.
Michelle.
Michelle Hershey?
No,
Michelle?
Jolio.
Okay.
Sorry, there's 3 Michelles in the room.
Michelle, how do you spell your last name?
G-I-O-G-L-I-O.
See? So in Workday, all you have to do is make sure you type, they say 2, but it's a lie. It's a lie. Don't buy into the lie. It's 3. 3 letters. 3 letters.
Did you try to? What happened?
No, but two, you'll find that 2's wonky. So don't do 2. Just go with 3, right? If you try 3, so I didn't finish typing your whole name and it popped up, right? So I have you here.
Sure, I could change it to GIS.
Okay, so I'm going to proxy as Michelle here real quick. So I can go and I can look up an employee up at the search bar. The other place I can go and kind of look things up. If I clicked on, you see this picture of Michelle over here off to the side? You should see a picture of you off to the side, right? If you click your picture, it's kind of an impromptu one. Go ahead and click your picture, right? And say view profile, right? It's gonna pop up your picture off to the side. And it's gonna give some information about you on that page. So top right-hand corner, yep. View profile, yep. We're good? So, do you see right here, there's Michelle, I see her name, I see her position, administrative assistant. And then do you see phone, email, and team? Right, do you see those? If you click on team, you can see the team that reports to Michelle. So all these people, they report to her, and you're gonna see the ones that report to you. So you can look people up here. So if you want to be like, oh yeah, this is one way to pull somebody up. So instead of typing Aaron Baxter's name, I could click on the team, and then I could come down here and click Aaron Baxter's name, and bam, I'm on Aaron, right? So again, multiple ways to see things. Let's try one more thing. I'm going to go back, so I'm not on Aaron, but I'm back on Michelle's profile, so I'm going to click back a couple of times. All right. So there was a more button, and if you click more, you'll see additional menu items here. There's one that you should see. Maybe you see it, maybe you don't. It should say time and absence. Do you see that? If you don't,
No, I see
It's gonna be up in the.
Keep going up. You're in the wrong.
It's up in the. Right next to where it says BYU.
thank you. So, did you?
Right next to where it says BYU up in the.
Yep, top corner, menu. It is the hamburger up at the top. Ignore my previous, click on the hamburger if you haven't clicked on it. Time and absence. Yes, thank you, Megan. So you can click on the hamburger on the so time and absence. If you click on that, it's like a 3-bar thing in the top. Oh, you clicked on it. So you can see people, and this is and so if you don't see, you can say add. Okay. Do you see?
Are you guys a supervisor?
I'm exempt.
Oh, you're exempt, okay.
Do you have people reporting to you?
But I do part-time. Yeah.
So what's your?
I didn't understand.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you guys see the time and you see time and absence?
Well, we just see them separate.
So if you don't see it, go ahead and click the Add Apps button at the bottom and type time and absence.
No results. It's online, they have them each listed
So
separately.
Yeah.
Shannon, if they're not.
Yeah. BYU 8 was refreshed when? Do you know what the snapshot is?
April.
When did you become a manager?
Well, I've been in my position for 4 years.
4 years? And you've been a manager the entire time?
Well, it's supervisor.
What's your name again?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it'll actually say it together, time and absence, but the ones that don't, we're trying to figure out if there's a,
All I got is. Ah, ha, ha, that's like my.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, the org, you didn't have anybody underneath you, so like, see how Carol, who you report to, has 32 people reporting to you. You don't have anybody reporting to you. Just have-
And so
Mine already had it.
this is gonna impact us now and a little bit when we do some of our hands-on pieces, right? 'Cause you're gonna come in here and you're gonna do some stuff in this space later. But the people that don't see time and absence, it's because in Workday, as of this tenant, as of this picture date, right? You can think of it as like a snapshot. We took a snapshot of PeopleSoft and we said, hey, as of this day, dump everything in. Well, some of your stuff, like over here, she has people that report to her students that report to her, but she doesn't see them because they actually report to the person above her technically. And so, depending upon how Workday got the reporting line, you may or may not see that time and absence. So if you're not seeing it, that would be the reason why. Okay? You can still pull up people if by going to the team, right? Pulling up the team, or by looking at them one at a time.
I think this is a great call out as well as we get closer to go live. If your manager selected them as the supervisor and not you, it'd be a great time to get in an E-form and just validate that your E-form is accurate.
Yeah.
Because it may be that your upline manager said, oh, this person reports to me. And if that's the case, in Workday, it's going to bring over that information that says that's the supervisor that we have on file and record. And though we can manipulate things in the GUI, we cannot manipulate the information that's going to come over. So be a great opportunity to check now and make sure that your organization has the correct supervisors.
You want to do that before the end of September. You should know end of September is like a very critical date for the program and BYU. That is when, so I use the word snapshot. So again, they take a look at PeopleSoft, and as of a certain time of the day, they say, grab everything from PeopleSoft and shove it into Workday. I'm simplifying, grossly simplifying, but that's the point, right? So this snapshot of taking this picture at a certain point in time, the production snapshot, it happens on October 1st. That means you have to have whatever you want in there before the snapshot date. So if you don't see something in here today, to Gary's point, if you don't see time and absence and people report to you, you should be double checking with the people on his team or HR and making sure that the right people are reporting to the right people. Because if something has to be fixed, now is definitely time to fix it, okay? That way, when you go to approve time, the right person is approving the time, and we'll talk about approvals here in a bit, but, okay. So a couple of places to go, again, time and absence together. I did hear Garrett saying, like, if you see time, that's like without absence, right? That's the time, that's my time. That would be as if I'm going and I'm doing, right? And if it's absence, it's my absence stuff. But time and absence together is kind of the team. It's like your manager dashboard. You're gonna hear dashboard a bit. And when we talk about your manager dashboard, this is the page we're talking about, this time and absence page. Okay, I'm not gonna spoil the rest of that for you, but I think that gets us to a good spot right there. All right, back to our other info, just a second.
Can I make a comment? for
Please.
everyone? I've been a change champion, so I've been seeing Workday for months. And one thing early on they taught us is a manager in Workday is anyone who supervises anyone.
That's right.
And at the physical facilities level, we have managers, we have managing directors, we have managers, and we have supervisors. So that's going to be a confusing transition. So I just want to throw that out there. If
Yeah.
anyone's confused, and just
Yeah.
so you know too.
Yeah, And she brings up a good point. Yeah, go ahead.
So, as a manager, we have leads in our shops,
Yep.
and they have people reporting to them, and then the leads report to us. What should my dashboard look like? Should I see everybody? Because I'm seeing every single player on my team right here.
You should see everybody, right? You should see
Okay.
those four, but if all you see is, so let's rephrase yours, right? Let's just say you have four shop leads. Just making stuff up, right? So those 4 shop leads would have a line to you. And then underneath those 4, you would have your students or whomever else, right?
Okay.
If all you see is the student section, then that would be a problem. Make sense?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, let's talk about the different ways that an employee, because you're going to need to know this, how an employee can clock in. And let me share it again, just a second.
This is for part-time, full-time reporter or student or all?
All. Let me share this again.
So all not exempt.
Correct, yeah.
Yep.
If you're an exempt employee, you won't be able to clock in.
Yeah, if you're exempt, just like now, if you don't punch in now, you won't need to punch in later. So if you don't clock in now, it'll be the same. All right, there's 3 devices that you can use to punch or to record time, to log time. There's the Workday Web, which we kind of were looking at a little bit here. There's going to be the mobile app, which you all installed and did that piece. And then there's actually going to be wall clocks, which I'm sure you've seen. In fact, some of you may have even dug some of the lines that took our clocks to various places out into the far reaches of campus, right? So we have 3 ways that a person can check in and check out. They can go onto the web. What do you think will be the most popular? If it were you, out of these 3 items, what do you think is the most popular on campus?
Yeah.
The mobile app, hands down, largest group, statistically speaking, it dominates everything else. So the mobile app, so your students, you, people you know, people you love, people you're going to get to know, they're all probably going to use the mobile app, right? But if they needed to use a wall clock, they could. So if something were down, now, does anybody here work past midnight regularly?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? So, I'm just going to make you aware of one thing here. Workday every week goes down for a few hours. So every week, there's not going to be a way to clock in or out using the mobile or using the web. But the one salvation is the wall clock, right? The wall clock will store the punch, and when Workday gets back up and running, the clock will push the punch to Workday. So, if your people need help because they've worked past midnight, or they're like, hey, I couldn't get through the mobile app, you're going to want to tell them about this trick with the, well, Workday's down at the end of every week, so it's kind of like a Friday, Saturday. Yeah.
How do we know where wall clocks are?
That's a good question. It really depends on the building. So sometimes it's just going to be hunting for them if you guys are out and about. Is there a building you're in quite a bit?
How about the football field?
There is one on,
There's one by the Club 22.
Yeah.
There used to be one anyway, if they're using the same clock.
yeah,
as
and there's
the
one on, I believe it's the northwest side, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there are some over there. Yeah.
Can we require people to use the wall clocks? So you don't have students clocking in when they're actually sitting in class, things like that?
Yeah, that's you bring up a good point. There's two responses to that notation, right? And kind of question, right? Number one, you as a manager, AKA supervisor, right, have a responsibility. And we're going to talk about some of that here in just a minute. And so part of that I'm going to table. The other part is that Gary and the leadership team at Physical Facilities, they are kind of the ones calling the shots on what is and is not available for employee use at your division. So if they say no, then it would be no. If they say yeah, then it's on the table. From a payroll office perspective, It's yes. It's always yes, because our goal is to try and pay people as accurately as we can, and the best way to do that is through a mobile device. Somebody had a question.
Are you gonna use the current white time clocks that are in effect right now, or are there gonna be new ones?
We're going to use the same ones. We are working with the development team right now to change the code, and then on December 21st, I guess that's a spoiler, right? December 21st, if you haven't heard, that's the cutover date. So Y time will shut off that night, and you'd have to punch in through one of the devices on Workday. Yeah, Michelle.
This thing with Workday going down at midnight, how long is it gonna be off?
It's
for?
usually down for like an hour or two. During the week, it's not too bad, and they're always trying to make it better. Every 6 months, it goes down a little bit longer. They have like a semi-annual update that does things like change the tax tables, right?
It's it's Friday night into Saturday, every week.
Yep.
Okay.
It's usually like
It's like
11
midnight to 2.
11 to 1,
Yeah.
11 to 2, something like that.
Okay.
But the semi-annual is a little bit longer.
Yeah,
It's like going to 3 or 4 or something, right?
and that's something they can send out notifications on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just expect it to be down a little bit longer.
Yeah, we'll get a couple times a year where it's down a little bit longer.
Can you avoid football season? That was a joke.
But I was thinking of the 4th of July, right?
Yeah, Stadium of Fire, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
It's not usually on a Friday though, right?
It depends.
This last year it was on a Tuesday.
It's generally on July 4th, but sometimes the Stadium of, the Freedom Festival, people want it on a different day.
Huh.
So, yeah.
So there might be some challenges when there's a stadium of fire and it goes down, but I would think that would be pretty rare. All right, I think that covers what I was going to do. Gary, you want to cover the next bit? I can drive for you. If you like.
Yeah, we're gonna look at clocking in and out really quick, checking in and out in Workday. So if you wanna open up under your time, go up to your menu on the upper left and select time. And if you're an exempt employee, it's not going to be there. When that screen comes up, you're gonna see a couple of different columns, but at the bottom, you should see a white box that says time clock. Does everybody see that? Is anybody not seeing that?
Time clock history.
You're not gonna have it, Jared.
Hey, I can share, I can share that app.
Okay. And we'll have Megan share the app here. So while you're in the web, you see the clock, the check in and check out. If you can see that, go ahead and just check in. When you see that, it's gonna open up a box that says a couple of different things, but you're gonna wanna go down to where it says time type and click on that.
Okay, so I'm currently on my screen. I am checked in. I'm gonna check out really quick and then go back in and check in. So what I would see, and if it's your first time in the tenant, you're not gonna have this running clock. You're not gonna have that until you go to view all time tracking app and then check in. After you do your initial check-in, then you're going to have that running clock. So we'll click on check in. Okay, I'm gonna check in. And then this is the time type. So most of what everybody's gonna be doing is gonna be regular. I'm sorry, did you wanna?
No, you're good.
Okay, it's gonna be regular. Unfortunately, we cannot have regular default in, just due to us having to allocate time. So allocating time, you're gonna have to select regular hours when you're checking in. You can also check in for event time. You can check in, your snow removal is gonna be a different premium. And the MTC bleachers,
And we'll talk
if
about,
you call it something else.
yeah, and we'll talk about those a little bit more here in
Yeah.
a minute, but you're going to see them as an option when you punch in, or when you check in.
So from there, then you can click OK. And you have the option here if to remind yourself to check out. So you can see, remind me to check out. Oops, that's in the way. Remind me to check out at, you can select your own time. You have to have push notifications set up on the app, but you can remind yourself to to check out.
Yeah, Michelle.
Question for Gary.
Yep.
If we clock in regular time, will it always default 2:01, or snow removal, will it always default 9:96?
No, and we'll talk about that in a second. So there's two kind of key components. There's this whole piece of clocking in and out, recording time, and then the other piece is called allocating time. And that's where we're going to assign work orders, new term projects, and workday to the time that we've worked. But that's a two-step process. What we're looking at right now is just the clocking in and out, creating that block of time that says I'm here and I'm working. Good question. So did everyone get a chance to clock in that's able to? Did anyone have trouble clocking in?
Anybody here that I can help? We good?
You want to go ahead and grab your mobile device. And we're going to follow through right here with what Megan's just demoed. I'm going to have you check out. I mean, granted, it's only been just a few seconds, but we want you to go ahead and check out. That's going to be just as easy as getting in there under time and clicking check out. Raise your hand if you're having trouble with that.
People just don't check in and check out.
Yeah, we got a lot of folks.
You have a question?
Well, he might talk about this. I had heard that there's a geofence. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, because in my zone, in physical facilities at the MTC, we don't use the mobile app because we had some serious problems with people. We had a student punch in for work sitting in the ski parking lot of Snowbird.
So we're going to talk a little.
We said no.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks. So the geofence for the physical facilities time template covers all of Utah County and beyond. So to your point, there isn't really a geofence. But we're still expecting employees to clock in when they're at work and when they're not. So there's a couple of different things that we can frame policy-wise. We haven't come out with anything specific. However, it's not inappropriate to say, hey, I need you at location X before you pull out your mobile device and clock in. Failure to do so is going to be problematic. Yeah.
Is there a way to, in here, to look at their time and see where they physically were off of a GPS?
Workday won't
No?
store that information.
No.
It's a hard no.
Okay. Because I know with that one particular student, HR was able to go, I think, to payroll, and that's how we found out that this individual was in the parking lot of Snowbird.
Payroll's really awesome that way.
Is there-
So, yeah, but not in the future. So
Oh,
some of those
so-
things go away when we go to Workday, right? That's
So-
one of them.
So
that goes
moving
away.
forward with Workday, HR won't have that. Okay.
Yeah, neither will payroll. But I think you're getting to the point, I hope you're seeing the point of how important it will be that when your students and the people that work for you, when they say, hey, I'm done for the week, here's my time, you as the manager, AKA supervisor, have the responsibility to make sure that that is accurate. And so it's going to place more responsibility on you to execute your job as a manager. So if by chance that person has committed fraud, right, they're going to check, I can guarantee it, the auditors are going to check to say, well, who did they submit their time to? And they'll be coming to ask questions like, okay, why didn't you know? I mean, and then you can give excuses like, well, I have too many. And then I guarantee it'll be cut right then and there, how many people report to you. So it'll be just you trying to, you just have to take the responsibility seriously of knowing what's going on with the people that work for you.
But there's no way to tell where the student is or the full-time employee when they punch in and out.
That's correct.
Correct.
But we can dictate.
Yeah, again
where
to that point
location
with
is, right?
policy, and again, right now, we're very open on what that policy looks like. But as a manager, you can make a constraint that says, you can't be on your mobile device clocking in until you're physically here. And I expect you to be here to check in at wherever you grab your keys and drop your bag. Yeah.
As managers, zone managers, we have the ability to tighten up the policy that the university has, but not loosen it. Does that make sense?
Correct, yep. Yeah, we're not gonna be more free and loose than what the university policy is. If anything, we're more constraining. But we can have those discussions before we get going.
I think also you'll come to see that Workday has a lot of reporting features that are going to be able to help you know where your employees are at. Like for example, you can see their check-in status on the dashboard. And so for this employee, if I'm sitting at work, I look at my check-in status, I see 8 people, but I only see 7 people on the floor. Where's that 8th person? Everyone can go searching for it. And so that's one thing I've enjoyed about Workday is seeing these extra reports to be able to see a little bit more clearly what's happening.
And we're gonna talk about a little bit more about some
Okay,
of those.
sorry, I didn't mean to
You're
derail.
fine.
You're good.
Yeah.
Melissa?
I think this is another opportunity for us to help people understand why. Why is it important that we punch in and out when we're actually at work, because we are paid with sacred funds, and
Yeah.
the university is ran with sacred funds, and when we defraud the university, we're not allowing those sacred funds to be utilized fully for what they should be used for. And so sometimes people just need to be reminded the why we do certain things, and that may help curb. It may not, and at that point, maybe the next option is if we have people completely defrauding, then it's time to cut them loose.
Correct, yeah,
So,
and
you know.
we run into those issues all the time.
Right.
Everyone's like, well, not at BYU, not where we're ecclesiastically endorsed, or not where we have
Right.
temple recommends. Well, yes. And again, we want to still provide opportunities that don't inhibit us to clock in and out in the locations that we're at, but we still, as managers and supervisors, want to help hold our staff and to hold our specific staff accountable for what they're doing. Richard?
Question, as far as custodial is concerned, building operations is concerned, is there going to be, wherever we have currently time clocks, can we get one of those little wall mounts installed instead of a time clock? So that we can, just like he was saying earlier, that they have a location, our office, our custodial offices or closets that they can go to and punch in there rather than using their mobile. Is that a possibility, or?
Are you talking about like an actual wall
Like
mount
the white
clock?
time, like the white time wall mount, yeah.
Yeah, if there's already a spot there with one of those clocks that has the configuration on it, we can, that hardware is gonna be utilized in Workday.
But I'm saying,
I
like,
think instead.
can we
he's
get it
saying
in our
instead.
office instead of randomly around the building? Like,
No,
no, okay.
It would, usually you should just know where so those cost money, they determine it's not just payroll that helps determine it, but whatever the building, I don't even know what they're called now, but we look at where the most foot traffic would be, and
Okay.
they kind of go there, just FYI.
No, perfect, thank you.
I'm afraid to ask this. Totally off the topic of what we're talking about, but why do they call it checking in and checking out rather than clocking in and clocking out? Which most people are used to that vernacular.
well, have you heard the saying, check yourself before you wreck yourself?
Only back in the 80s.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
created that.
yeah. No, it's just Workday terminology, and we'll have a discussion in a minute. There's a lot of terms that are gonna change slightly that mean the same thing. Again, this is just Workday's out-of-the-box version of what that is. This is something that we can't change. It's just part of that SaaS
I
system.
was
So,
just curious if there's a why behind it. I mean, is clocking in and out, is that like not acceptable anymore?
No.
You'll still say it, but it really is a sick joke by somebody at Workday, right? Because they're like, hey, I'm checking out for the day, right?
I like that.
And they're like, well, we have to say it when we come in, so now it's check in, check out. I mean, it's
Some
kind
of them are
of,
checked out anyway,
yeah.
even when
Okay.
they're at work.
okay, any other questions? Okay.
Getting back up to there for you.
Thanks.
Now. Now?
Does everyone have one of the handouts that we handed out? Is everybody aware of how this works in physical
So
facilities?
should we have checked out?
Yeah, go ahead and check out, yeah.
Oh, I need to get one of those. I didn't get a handy dandy handout. Thank you.
Did everybody get one of these? I'm gonna grab that for just a second. Everyone knows how this works, right? If you're a physical facilities employee, how we use decimals to break up our 60 minutes. This will continue to happen in Workday, not from the clocking in and clocking out perspective, but when we start to assign our time or allocate our time to specific work orders in Workday, we'll still continue to use this document. Now, this document I pulled fresh off of the new employee manual that comes out with every new employee, but I've given you copies and we can send soft copies out by email if that's helpful, just to remind everybody when they allocate their time after they've clocked in and out, it's going to have a very interesting decimal placement. We're going to use 6 decimal places, and that's again a Workday constraint as to the hours that are in Workday. So you'll see if you worked 8 hours and so many seconds, it'll see 8.111452. What we want you to do when we talk about this in just a few minutes is allocate to that 8 hours to get as close as you can, but you don't have to go all the way out to the decimal point for your allocation. Some of this sounds a little bit foreign, and we're going to look at it here in just a minute, but we want to continue to use that decimal system as best we can to kind of estimate our hours. Questions, Bill?
This has changed slightly. The way we round on this is not the way we round on the current document.
Okay, well, I pulled this from the current document, so how are you guys rounding?
We have a document that has us round up to the 10th as soon as we pass the previous one. So 1 second is 0.1, not 0.
Okay. I'm fine with that if you want to continue to do that. We can update the document.
It's those green sheets
Or-
that we have.
Are we able to set up parameters where we can set it up so somebody can't clock in earlier, like more than 10 minutes early, so we can manage that a little bit closer? No? Okay.
Other questions? So we'll continue to use the decimal system when we allocate or assign our work orders.
I should say not right now, Greg.
Okay. I'm glad that's, okay, thanks.
I'm gonna be as big as I can right there.
So there will be some mobile notifications and texts that can come to your mobile device and to your Workday on the web. I'll have Megan just kind of briefly talk about those for just a second. Those aren't things that we could put in the test environment because once we enable those notifications, they work across all of Workday. But yeah, do you
Do you
want?
want me to show after we go through these?
We can do
Just, I mean,
Sure.
because time,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going back and forth. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last thing that I wanted to talk about from this slide is just as we clock in and out, a lot of people made suggestions and said, well, can this just default in as regular time 201 for you, right? And because we have different types of time, because we want to account for those folks that do bleachers or snow removal or who have an event that they want to charge at a different rate, we need to have those different time types. So we're asking you to select regular time as the default. That's just something we want to train moving forward, that if you're not working an event or snow or the MTC bleacher thing, and that's a very small group, if you're wondering what that is, then come talk to Rob and Marie. They're I think the only two in the room that do know that. We want to make sure we use that time type that's regular. Any questions on that?
It's another Workday thing, right?
Yep. Premium pay. Who knows what premium pay is?
None of us.
None of you. None of you have seen premium pay. Jared, grab some
Well,
candy.
you're
for
on the
that.
wrong bus.
Yeah. Part of the terminology that will change is in current state, right? Like when we fill out a time card, if we exceed 8 hours in a day or 40 hours in a week, what do we fill out? Gray card, right? If we do an event or have on-call time and we haven't reached 40 hours for the week, what do we fill out?
Gray card,
And what is that card called?
Overtime.
overtime.
Overtime card. In Workday and moving forward, overtime, and for the rest of the free world, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we were unique for so many years, so be grateful to be unique. Overtime is only time that's regular time in excess of 40 hours. At that point, it becomes overtime. So any questions on that?
That is the true legal definition of overtime, right?
See any constraints or concerns, Bill?
So does that mean when people are putting in regular time, they don't have to track? So if they work 42 hours, the system will automatically take those last 2 hours over?
If they work 42 regular hours, the system will take that and take those last 2 hours into overtime. Michelle?
Well, okay, never mind, that probably, that's what I was gonna say, but like with me, when I work games, I work 40 hours and I work games.
Uh-huh.
So is that considered premium because it's a game, or is that considered overtime because it's?
Great question. It's not overtime,
Okay.
but you'd like to be paid for doing something outside of the norm. More importantly, we don't want to use that event time to then, at the end of the week, charge one of our normal customers, part of our normal schedule, those excess fees. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, but that premium pay is called event time. And we'll demo that, and it's going to require a different time type. Hey, I worked this event from 8 p.m. to 11. This needs to be billed and paid at a different rate. And so that will be the huge distinction, the difference moving forward. It's not overtime, it's premium time.
So I have a crew that comes in, they're working Monday through Friday. One guy wants to take vacation on Friday, but he works an event on Thursday. It doesn't get him to 40 hours as regular time because he can use 8 hours vacation, but he works 6 hours at gymnastics. That's premium time, right?
One more time.
Welcome to our world.
You had me at hello. Hey, so if I'm understanding correctly, somebody's taking vacation at the end of the week on Friday. Are they working an event or just normal schedule?
An event.
If they're working event, that will be event time. That
So
will
it's
be paid
overtime after 8, basically.
That will be, it will be, yeah, I mean, it's gonna pay at a premium rate.
Okay.
It'll be after that time, but they will need to be clocked in and out for that time that they need to charge an event to. So, it's come up before, the Marriott Center. The Marriott Center works from 8 to 4, no break, no lunch. Those guys are heroes. Then they have an event from 4 to 9. What we're asking is for those employees to clock out at 4, clock back in at 4:01 or whatever, and select event time so that we can then pay them a premium and bill a premium for the time that's worked. Questions on that?
So is that premium then time and a half? Is it overtime? Is that, I think
The
that's.
premium is paid at 1.5, correct. It is,
Okay, so
it is,
that's-
it's paid at the rate
Premium's
that.
the new catchphrase for overtime.
No.
There's both.
Whose idea was it?
That's right, there is both.
There's both.
There's both.
There's both.
You could have overtime in a week and have premium, or you could have premium and no overtime, or overtime and no premium,
They're both
right?
1.5 hours, but you just call them 2 different things,
You have
right?
to clock in.
It's the purpose, right? It's the purpose. Event time should be paid at 1.5, right? Event time at 1.5. Overtime just so happens to be paid at 1.5, at least for right now. If they ever were different and the government says, let's pay that at 1.73, well, guess what? Overtime will then be at 1.73, but your event time will still be at 1.5, right?
So is on call.
On call is special.
Special time.
Get this man a candy
Yeah, where's
bar.
the candy bar?
So, on-call will be a different designation in and of itself as well. And that premium will pay and will only be able to be charged or billed to if you've been selected for on-call. So our office will take the list of on-call employees, just like we do in current state, and we will assign on what's called on-call weeks, or just a designation that says, hey, this person's on call this week. That will then fire off a validation that says this person can now charge at the on-call rate. So when they get called out, they will clock in, select their on-call time type, and work their shift.
Guess what will be the most common problem? Just a second, Michelle. But guess what will be the most common problem with on-call people being like, I can't do on-call hours. I go to select on-call hours, it won't let me. What's going to be the biggest problem? Why won't they be able to do it? From what he just said.
They're not designated.
They're not designated. That is correct.
It's a
That
security-
on-call
they're like a
week
security.
has to be there first, right? It has to be there first. and then they can do
So
on-call.
except two people swap on-call weeks, that has to be corrected with payroll and approved before
Yeah.
that can be done.
It has to go through Gary's office.
Okay.
Similar to how it is in current state,
Sure, sure.
we need someone to come and communicate to us. So that will continue to be the process.
Okay, you said like with the Marriott Center people that clock out, clock back in, it's event time. I'm sure that's gonna be the same with snow removal people. However, my question is, before I was with physical facilities, I was actually here in this building, and I was a Y-time manager. And we had students who would clock out of one job and clock right back into another job, and it's really an exception in Y-time. Will Workday allow you to clock out and clock in like that?
The exception came when they didn't do the clock out first. So if you clocked in and you were already clocked into another job, it threw an exception. Does that still exist? It still does. But can you clock out and 2 seconds later clock into another job? You can do that. And you can still do that in Y-time today, you can do that.
Okay.
But you cannot double dip.
Right.
If you have two jobs, you can't be clocked in on one and clocked in at the other
I
one
had
at
that
the same time, right?
I had that
Dipping is
trouble
over.
too, but yeah, this was like if they like clocked out and clocked in really quick.
Um,
Like it thought they were double dipping, but.
yeah,
I just used to tell them, go to the bathroom before they clock back in.
keep telling them the same thing.
Okay.
It's a good time for a bathroom break before you punch in again, right?
So one quick question. Right now, we gain funds into our, by using a work order number to charge our time to. Will we be able to, if we work 10 hours one day, will the overtime come out of our M&O or will it come out of the projects? Are we gonna get to that?
So overtime, anything that exceeds 40 hours of regular is going to come out of whatever project is the last project for the week. So meaning if you worked up until 40 hours and then on Friday you end up working a couple of extra hours, the overtime is going to get billed to that last section of time. Event time or any of these types of time are automatically going to bill when you allocate to that specific work order. So if it's Monday and I worked an 8-hour day, then 4 hours of event time, we'll want to make sure to, when we allocate, select that and bill it that way. That way that it's billing accurately the time there and we're not pushing those charges to someone differently.
So what you're saying is daily overtime goes away?
Daily overtime goes away. If there's pre-approved specific events that your manager has pre-approved you to work, and that could be a very specific type event, or it's just, hey, I'm late on this project, I need you to have me work. That needs to be approved through the manager.
Like it is currently.
Currently, yeah. Any other questions? MTC bleachers is the same way. I don't know that we'll hit too much on that. You guys, again, we'll make sure that your guys select the time type MTC bleachers if they're working on that.
But you do have to his point, right, you do have to clock out and clock back in because you're switching time types, right? You're switching from regular to this or from this to that, right?
So I got a question about overtime. When it comes to, say you have an event that is outside your normal hours and you're doing that work, but you also know, hey, we're gonna be here for 40 hours anyways, and then come Friday, you hit 40 at like noon, but you're still working, but you want that overtime to go to the event that pulled you in early one of those days. Will this system be able to handle that?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. We're
Oh,
saying
is that what you're saying?
when you clock in, like if you clock out for the day, or if you clock out after 8 hours, we want you to clock back in, select event time for that specific day, work that time and clock out, and then allocate that time as an event to the specific work order or whatever you're.
But
I think I know what you're asking.
because the event's on Monday,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, it's not an event, it's gonna be, it's something that you're gonna work more than 40 hours, but you want it to go to whatever you did on Monday versus a staff meeting on Friday.
Yeah. So if I understood what you're saying correctly,
I hope so.
yeah, let me know if I'm wrong here. If you designated that that's event time, in your example, were you saying that was part of what pushed you up to 40?
So I've got a full schedule of 40 hours with all my, we've got 40 hours worth of work, but then someone asks like, hey, can you cram me into your schedule? Or, hey, you've got to get this done this week. We're gonna go over, but it needs to be done on Monday.
So I'm gonna draw this one. So those guys on the other side, if you want to see this, you're gonna have to come over here real quick. I'm sorry to do this to you, but just for drawing's sake, right? So if I do 8 hours on this day, 8 hours, right? We'll just go 8. We've got 40. If I do 8 hours on this day, I do 6 hours on this day, and the other 4 are event time, right? And then I go, what does that get me? That gets me up to what, 14? We'll go, no, just 14 reg. So we'll go another 8, 8, 14, what, 22, 30?
6.
You're only short 2 hours, so you have 38.
Yeah, 38, thank you. So, but let's say, well, let's just go with that. Let's go 9. 9, right? So now I'm at 41. So, yeah.
You need 2
11.
9.
41 regular hours, 2 hours event time.
Yeah, so we got 24 plus 15, right? 39. So even though this together doesn't push me, it doesn't impact my overtime determination yet, right?
Yeah.
Because this one's already paid at 1.5 times. So the government says, if I pay you at a time and a half for something you're already doing, then that doesn't come into the overtime calculation, right? So this one here, this person would get 39 hours reg, and they would get the 2 hours at the premium. Not overtime, but premium.
Okay.
Did
So
that
then,
explain
I
it?
mean, that's just, then that's got something to do with not me. Like, I don't have to worry about that. That's
Okay.
payroll people, right?
No,
You're
you'll
all
have
right.
to worry about this.
You have to make sure they clock in.
Well, so yeah, I need to make sure that they clock in on the premium, but it doesn't matter when it comes to overtime or premium.
That's correct.
Okay, then I have, okay, as long as I just have to worry about allocation, then I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So in this scenario, and I've got actually 2 questions, but in this scenario, since that person only worked 39 hours, does that mean they still need to use 1 hour vacation time to get to their 40?
No, they don't, because you don't have to get, I mean, I have 41 hours that I've done. And technically, well, HR probably would hit me for, I guess I probably won't say what I was about to say.
What does that do about the accrual of sick and vacation if they don't get to 40 regular?
So sick and vacation are not based solely on reg hours. They're not.
It's just total hours.
It's just total hours. Total hours
it's
physically
total
worked.
hours.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So that won't affect, so if he
so
has 41,
Yeah,
his
so
accrual
It won't
of
affect,
sick
it
and
won't
vacation
affect the
is
accrual. of
so
sick and
current
vacation.
constraint right now, right, is like everybody's trying to get 40 hours regular each week. It's total hours, so.
Yeah, you don't,
So in the same kind of scenario, say the events are regular time, and then, you know, like you're doing it from, no, never mind. It was just.
I think the distinction is, like, if it's part of your normal job, we want you to book it at regular time. If it's going to be an event that's outside of your normal schedule, we've created a mechanism to create event time. That event time pays at 1.5, but that won't work towards regular hours.
yeah. I think we can, I think we get last question here.
So we've got guys in our shop that work regular overtime right now. You
Mhm.
can look at the history, some are 50 hours average.
Mhm.
Will that increase their accruals and
It won't,
vacation?
it won't increase it. It doesn't increase it now.
Okay. Great, so we touched briefly on on-call hours. Again, Those on-call hours will be a specific time type, but that time type is constrained by the assignments that are made by our business support staff as to when on-call weeks are. Jump to the next slide.
No, sorry, I went back, went too far. I think we kind of talked about.
I think we've kind of talked about all of these. There are some.
Overtime requests.
Yeah. So, do you
Do we want to
want to demo that really quick?
Okay.
So there will be, anytime that there is overtime required, there will be an overtime request that has to be filled out and approved by your manager. We're gonna
And we
have,
have a caveat to what, if it's less than 2 hours, right? Because people punch in and out, just natural occurrence of life, you're gonna have 40.27 or 41.34, whatever, right? If it's less than 2 hours, payroll has an agreement with the auditors to not bust anybody's chops for anything less than 2 hours. So, anything over 2 hours is fair game. And so they'll be asking where the approval is if it was more than 2 hours worked of overtime.
Shannon's a lot kinder than we are going to be in physical facilities, because if you're scheduling to work overtime, we'd like you to have that conversation with your manager. So that may not be a specific approval, but again, he's signified what the constraint is. But we want to make sure that managers are being communicated to if you're going to be working overtime.
If everybody picks up 2 hours a week,
Yeah.
large scale, that's a lot of money.
Correct. Michelle?
At one point, like a minute, like if they, like Shannon was just saying, the natural order of things, they might clock in and out, they might have 0.2 out, like a tenth of an hour. So I'm not good at math, the 0.2 part of an hour.
100th
Like-
part, yeah.
Like up to how.
Yeah, up to the second. We want to know at 40.001, no. I think we're probably okay if it pushes to about a half an hour.
Okay.
If we go beyond a half an hour, we need to have that conversation with the manager, because we understand everybody's not going to clock out at perfectly 8 hours every day. But if there's not a compelling reason for you to be working overtime, we want you to kind of shoot for that half-hour mark.
I can't get them to track their time cards to avoid overtime. So
Hey, guess what? We have Workday. We'll help them know how much
Yeah.
time they have.
Yeah. So Workday's gonna let them know if they have over 2 hours of overtime, that they need to have a request in. So really quick, I'm in. This is not available on mobile, so just so everybody knows, you cannot request overtime on mobile. But I can,
Ever?
I mean, I can't say ever, safe harbor.
I'll say ever. Ever.
Okay, so
Forever.
if you request overtime, they need to go on a computer. or-
Yep.
Okay.
So click on overtime requests. Now, this is something that I can do in the future, so I don't have to actually wait till after I work it. I can go in and say, hey, this week I'm gonna have to stay on late and work overtime. And again, this is overtime, not premium, so I don't have to do it for my premiums. And I'm gonna put it in for this Friday. Now, I'm not gonna be able to enter in any other time in the future, so they're gonna restrict employees and users from entering, like I can't go in and enter in regular for Friday. It's not Friday, I haven't worked it yet. I need to be clocking in and out. So I'm just gonna change this to the 20th. I need to put in a total hour, so say 3, and then I have to add in a comment. And the comment has to go here. I know there's 2 comment boxes and I can't help it. If you wanna put a comment in both, you can. Comment has to go here. If the employee doesn't do it, they'll get a notification that they need to put a comment in specifying why they are working overtime.
I'm gonna just modify what she said and say, you should tell them to put it in both.
Okay.
There's 2 boxes, just tell them, put the comment in both boxes. Copy paste, put it in one and then copy and paste it to the other.
Once that's submitted, it'll go to the manager's task box. That task box looks like your mailbox in the upper right-hand corner. You'll review it, and if you approve it, then it's approved.
So Richard, you get to approve it.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Oh,
You get to
right.
go check out your inbox and approve the overtime. Your inbox is gonna be the, there's a envelope in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, he found it.
You got it.
Yeah.
I've
All
watched
right.
all the videos.
All right.
Yeah. Right.
Good to hear.
Talking about.
All All right, so then as Allison, I'm gonna go back in and I can see that my overtime request is now approved. While I'm here, do you want me to allocate?
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay,
Megan, can I interrupt real quick?
of course.
On the comment box, there's 2 comment boxes on that request.
Yeah.
Can we clarify which comment box
Both.
we need to act, oh, both, perfect. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Copy paste.
So when she was in there requesting that, there was something down there that says drop a file.
Oh, attachments,
What?
if you want to, it's not required.
We won't
But,
use it.
I mean, what would you upload? I mean, what?
Maybe
No.
maybe a half-finished shelf that you were working on for.
For real.
for
We're
somebody
actually
to
gonna
have.
probably take it off.
Oh, yeah.
We'll take off the file thing. That was on my
Can you
notes.
take that?
Yeah.
Pile of vomit?
Okay, and then here, this is what the timesheet's gonna look like, in the web. So this is what the employee's gonna see. You can see these blocks all look different. This green means it's approved. This that's not perforated, I don't know how to describe it, this looks kind of perforated. This means it's submitted, and then this means it's not submitted. So you'll see this unallocated project block here. This is a block you're not able to change. It is just more of a heads up. Hey, you need to allocate that much more time to meet the 97.5% allocation threshold.
So we've created this 97.5% allocation threshold because we don't want you to have to allocate all the way out to those 6 decimal places. What we want to do is if you work 8.001 hours, we want you to allocate 8 hours for the day to that specific project, that specific work order or service request. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, that's good. So
Question?
go ahead.
If I approve 3 hours of overtime, can they work up to 3 hours of overtime, or can they work more?
They can always work more. So
They
if I,
can work more,
yeah.
but there will be a report that shows them that they put in a request and they worked more than their request.
So should they err on the high side?
I would err on the accurate side.
So if you allocate 3 hours, the project took 5.
If you requested, you mean 3 hours?
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
requested 3 hours, it was approved. It took longer than everybody thought. Can you go in and approve the additional 2 hours?
No, you're still going to approve that employee's time after the fact.
And she can change her request too. It's not set in stone.
Yeah,
So
if they wanted to add it, if they can go back in and edit the request.
But
and
when
change
you
it
go to
5.
approve their time at the end of the week, you would make a note of that.
You're going to see it, yep.
And
Yeah.
you're also going to get a report on Monday that says that they worked over. Like, I think we still have a
So-
threshold, but.
Yeah, we do have a threshold.
So there's a way of catching that.
Yeah,
Right.
So I know that this is gonna take a while for all of us to learn, but once we get going, right? Are you guys projecting that this will all be a little bit faster with doing everything time related? Or it's gonna take a little bit longer, but the accuracy will be there? Is this gonna save us time, or is it gonna take us more time but just be more accurate?
more time than the paper time cards?
Yes.
Don't know on that, because I don't know that we haven't really done an analysis to figure
It
out.
will take significantly less time in the aggregate
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
to do this than it will paper.
I
What it
think
will
it's-
feel like for new users is that it's taking more time.
Right,
But if you think about what it takes to get a paper time card from the employee
right.
to our payroll office in a filing cabinet, it's
Overall, there'll be
significantly
time
less.
saving, but we
Correct.
might
Yeah.
not feel it individually.
I was gonna say, it depends on if you're looking at it from just that, or if you include Gary's team in it too. If you include Gary's team in it, oh yeah, it's a lot, it's a time saver.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we got 15 minutes. So just attention for 15 more minutes, so we can set you on your way to go break things. Okay, allocation. So I still need to allocate my time. My hours worked are up here. And I also have this error message. So why do I have an error message? Oh, it's telling me that I need to allocate my time for Tuesday, the 17th. I am not able to submit if I have an error message on my timesheet. So I have to make sure that that goes away. Here's where we allocate. So you are gonna see in this list, you must allocate to project plan tasks. You're gonna see a large number of numbers on this list that might not be applicable to you. You do not have to scroll through them all. If you know the number that you want, I don't know if this is even one, of course not.
201 is.
Okay. You can also just type in, so you can search if you want to. You can search the number. As well, once you start using projects more and more, you have this most frequently used. So it'll come up within this list if you've used it before. So just easier ways to help employees. 201. So I typed in 201. I also got this little drop down. So what is this? So this is where I designate what position that I am entering my time against. Primary position for this employee is going to be PF, but they also have this research assistant. So how we've set it up, they don't have to allocate time for research assistant, but they do for PF.
Is that why it's a primary?
Correct.
PF is primary. Yep.
Because of the allocation.
Because of the allocation.
We're trying to get it that way. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're a full-time staff employee, you're not going to see multiple jobs there, multiple positions. You're just going to see the one.
All right, so I'm going to put in 4.29. I can do multiple projects. We're just going to, for the demo purposes, keep that there. There's also this premium billable on-call. So when I use event time, when I use snow removals, when I use NTC bleachers, what I select up here needs to be 996 or 703.
Nice.
Or something else. Anyways, it needs to align with that that premium.
Yeah, and with that work.
And I would need to select here. This was either where I worked my on-call or where I worked my premium billable.
So just to add.
Work order, or is that pretty high?
It's going to be all of them. So any project that we have, if that's an N XXXX, if that's a service request 15504, if it's a work order 201, all of those are going to be in there. And your list is going to be constrained by the shop that you're in. And so as you type that in there for that specific shop, if your shop has not been assigned, you're going to say, hey, my shop's not in here, I can't clock in. You'll need to make contact and make sure that in the GUI system, we've added that shop on that specific work order.
Can we do this on the app or is this just?
Yes, you can. It's a little bit easier to allocate, I think, on, especially if you have a lot on the web, but you can allocate and enter your time. You can punch, you can do all of that on the app.
Hey, so just to call out really quickly, the way that you guys get your papers now that tell you what to punch in on for the day, you're going to keep getting that, right? So the CMMS still is alive, it's well, it's still living, it's still doing its stuff. You're still going to get the papers that say, hey, you should work on 276 today or 305 or whatever it is, right? You're going to keep getting that. But you should be aware that the way you guys use the term tasks is going away. So tasks in Workday means something vastly different from the way you understand the word task to be today.
Yeah, if I were going to say task today, what does that mean?
I got a job to do.
I've got a very specific type of job to do, right? I'm going to work on this task on work order 201, for example. In Workday, task means, you might want to write this one down, it's on the test. Task is our work order or our service request. So what are we doing with the task number? It will not be part of our allocations in future state.
So the task becomes the work order. No, the work order becomes the task, and the task just goes away.
That's right. No more tasks. Not the way you understand it now. That is correct.
Yeah. Work order or service request will be a task in Workday, and what we use as task moving forward. The task four-digit number that we use currently on our time cards goes away.
And I just wanted to call out, will you go back to just do an allocation for me real quick? Just pick up any task.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a bad one?
No, that's fine. So 22 PJ 957-222 and then 222, right? This is workday term for the first 222, that's the project. That middle number, that's called the phase. Just giving you terms. The last one is the task. That's what we're talking about when we say work order service request. It's that last number. And notice that when she went here, she didn't go to projects, she went to project tasks, right? Go back one, or go back to the drop down for me. Yeah, not the first one, it's the second one. The second one, project tasks. It will scream at you if you pick the first one. You'll know because it won't let you submit, and you'll be like, what the heck did I do wrong? Wait, that's 202, I totally put in the right thing. Well, no, you didn't.
Because we're not the only ones using this. Right, it's not.
Because you can't allocate directly to a project. You allocate in Workday directly to a task, and we've set it up so that the work orders and service requests are those tasks.
So why is just the word project even in there?
Because somebody at Workday loved it, and so it's there.
That's nice of them.
Yeah.
We have that too. We have parent projects with work orders under them.
Yeah.
You can't charge them parent projects.
Right, so similarly,
It's
yeah.
comparison.
So when you allocate that time, you want to make sure that you see those carrots, right? That project, phase, and task, that last.
You want to
number.
see the carrots. If you don't see a carrot, it's wrong.
Yep.
You must see carrots.
Okay.
All right, guys, so when I put in my time and I did it accurately, that unallocated project block we saw here, the perforated one, it disappeared. So I am good, I am at that 97.5% threshold. And I also have this orange button that wasn't here before because I had an error on my timesheet. So this is review, so this is where you would submit it at the end of the week. So everybody is going to be submitting for the biweekly period, but you can submit it, I forgot what we told this group, but
Daily.
Daily.
Yep, we want everyone to submit every day.
Daily. So I submit it, and then Richard's going to get an approval task for Allison. So that was. Do we want to run through?
You do your approval.
Yeah, let's go.
Dashboard.
So, hey, we're gonna run through a few things that we're gonna have you guys look at some stuff when you get home. So you'll have some homework tonight, okay? Or for tomorrow. But we're gonna show you some things. So in order for you to be successful, when you go do your stuff, you're gonna need to see this stuff. So just a heads up. So when they go and actually submit time to a manager, right? So every employee, if you haven't caught on, must review their time, meaning they look at it and they say, send this to my manager. That's when we say submit, that's what we mean. They're clicking the button that says, get this to my manager. Then the manager gets notification that says, hey, Jill or whomever, right, that was there, that person said, hey, I have X numbers on Monday, X numbers on Tuesday, X number on Wednesday, and then I had vacation time on Thursday and whatever else, right? You're gonna get these things in that little inbox looking thing. That's things you have to do. If you don't do them, bad things happen to you.
No one did.
It's so bad I can't tell it to you here.
We
But
can
they
step
will happen.
outside.
So you'll have to approve.
I don't think you want to hear it. Get outside. It's just too tender for your ears. I'm sorry.
You're gonna get inbox task projects, or your tasks are gonna be separate from your worked hours. So you'll have to approve those independent of your worked time.
Did you hear that?
Now.
What did she just say?
We're gonna be clocked out when we do these, is that what she's saying?
No, she's saying that your worked hours will be one approval. And all that time that I allocated, that's another approval. So you'll get 2 per day per person.
Now,
So
this
you're
seems,
approving the block of time that they worked, and then you're making sure to approve, hey, did they push to the right work orders and service requests? Those are the 2 approvals we're asking.
and it seems daunting if you have a lot of folks that report to you. So in Workday, there is an easier way to go through all of the approval tasks that you need to do. So this is one way. If you like it, great. You can do this on mobile. This is on mobile. You can go through and while you're doing whatever you do on Friday night, you can just approve everything. But
Working right in
if not, you can access the time and absence dashboard. So if you guys want to go in here and access this, I'm going to briefly talk about what all you're going to be able to see. Garrett touched on this earlier. So this report is going to pop up and it's going to show the check-in status of everybody on your team. So whether they're checked in, checked out, all their total hours, project hours. There's other reports on here. So some of these might not be pertinent to you because you have students. You don't have staff that reports to you. So what you can do is you can configure the entire page, the reports that you want, the reports you don't want. You can remove them or you can move them around. So it's up to you. You don't have to have all of this just vomited on the page if you don't want it. There's also some tasks that you can do that you have access to do. We will come back to review time. If you need to actually look at an employee's timesheet, you can go to enter time per worker. You can look at time clock history, so that'll show if they actually punched in or out, or if they entered in a block, enter in an absence, and if anybody is on leave, you could return them from a leave of absence. Reports down here, so time block and time clock audit manual entries. So this is kind of a customized report delivered to you guys so you can determine if people are adjusting their time. We want everybody to punch in and out. We don't want people to be manually entering just their regular hours. They're gonna have to for allocation, but
yeah, and payroll will be looking. If we see people that are not punching in and out, we are coming for them. I'll just give it to you straight up, right? They should be punching in and out from an approved device. And if we see people just going into the timesheet and like, oh, 8 to 5, 8 to 5, and they're habitually doing that, we are going to get them. You should know that. You should help us to help them know that.
all right, managers, I want all of you guys to go into review time. So you can do that. This dashboard is not going to be available on mobile. So
Review and approve time?
review time.
Review and approve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that,
You're approving it.
Yeah. all right, and then from that page, just press OK. Now we have conveniently loaded in time for you all, and it is in a beautiful submitted status. This is not going to be how the real world is. Oh, because I went a different.
You went a different direction.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So it's not going to always be this way, but from this screen, you have the ability, after you have looked at everybody's time and made sure it's accurate, and everybody's time is in a submitted status, I can click on this and mass approve all of the time. Now, let's say Brianna's time is not submitted, I can unclick her and not submit Brianna's time. I need to review it a little bit more. So this cuts down on the inbox tasks that you guys have to do. Now, if you want to, you can also just click directly on the worker and it'll show you a little bit more of the breakdown by week, and also all of the entries that you're approving directly from the review time screen. You can also, if you need to modify something, you can access the enter time per worker and it'll take you to their timesheet.
This gets back to that point we were making earlier as supervisors, reviewing the time for your people. Going in here and blindly clicking the box is not your friend. If you're not looking at the time for your people and validating that the time is legit, you're going to get burned at some point, right? Because to the point I was making earlier, if it's audited and it's found out that somebody cheated, right, they're going to say who approved the time. And they're going to start asking questions. They're going to come to you and they're going to start saying, all right, how are you doing it? What are you doing? What are you doing wrong? What are you doing right? Right? And they're going to be asking questions. Just don't go there. Just right out of the gate, just make a commitment to always look at the time. And if you have 500 people, well, then you really should talk to Gary about reorganization and structure so that you don't have to sit there and spend enormous amounts of time reviewing 500 people. 500 is ridiculous, right? So it needs to be manageable. And you have to have those conversations with Gary if something's unmanageable.
What if I have 7 guys with my 10 or 12 come in at 6 a.m., they leave at 2:30. I start at 8, I go to 4:30. What's a good way for me to manage and know if I'm this accountable for them and I'm gonna lose my job if they are dishonest?
So you want to go in and just look at, I would just, as you pull up the people, you can just click on them and do a quick review, right? You can do that review on the week, right? You can say like Monday or Tuesday. Now, if they're always doing 8, it probably wouldn't be a bad habit to be like, okay, if I have 20 people, you may not have time to do all 20, right? But maybe you have time to do 10. We'll do 10. Pick 10 at random and look at them, right? Are they looking good? But then you risk it if you don't do all 20, right? So you're just going to have to say, all right, what do I have time for? But if it were me, I would be just making diligent time to just look at the timesheet. And you can pull up, right? Go to everybody on your team, look at the timesheet, just pull them up by person. And then when you come here, you can just click the box and away you go, right? Because you've already done the legwork.
Without a wall-mounted time clock for them to check in, and they have a mobile opportunity. I don't know if they're in Orem or if they're on campus checking in, but I'm responsible.
To a degree, yes.
Okay.
You're expected to know if your people are here or not here, right? So you'll have to have, maybe have a check-in at your shop, right? Everybody has to come here, and check in with so-and-so at the beginning of each day. And there's like some validation. It's really up to you, right? Can't say, but you'll have to just brainstorm with Gary ways in which you can help improve internal controls.
Yep, and we're going to look at that as well, because that's something that's been brought up. So.
Okay, guys, we're at time, but I did want to share one last thing, just because I know this was a big ask, but we have, and of course this person doesn't have much set up. So I clicked down here on this like suitcase looking thing, and it's a team absence calendar. So this will give you a snapshot if your team has time off. It'll give you a snapshot of who all has requested time off. So I was actually going to use Richard for my demo, but since he's here, it's awkward.
It's all good. According to this, I've got sick on Thursday and Friday, so
you're good.
Prophecy right there. Just so you all know, Greg, Jeff, I'm sick. I'm gone.
And the other thing is, so if you approve time from that review time task, everything's going to drop out of your inbox, so it'll clean up nicely. All right.
Okay.
We are at time. What other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
Really quickly, just to kind of sum up, and I'm happy to stay after and answer questions that you have. Does this seem like a lot out of the gate? Raise your hand if you feel overwhelmed today. Be honest. That's why we're starting now and not on December 21st. So we're going to have other opportunities to have an all-hands meeting with our physical facility staff across the spectrum. We're looking for other opportunities to meet. We're going to record these sessions. We're going to provide plenty of opportunities for you to get in there. You can get in there and start playing on your mobile app, and we encourage you to do that sort of thing. I can get you a link for the Workday web version as well, so you can go ahead and play with that. Again, you guys are going to be our biggest advocates for what's rolling out. And there's a lot of different things that come with change, and I know that one of those things that comes with change is people that are disappointed, and I get that. But we're asking you as managers to open up and really look at the positive here and pass that positive information down to your employees. This provides them with something that they don't have to fill out physically anymore. This eliminates a lot of paper trail that we often get done, and it eliminates a lot of inaccuracies that we have in our paycheck. Our hope is that you guys can see that vision. We'll continue to train you through the system. It's going to take a while to be comfortable there, but we really do feel like this is the best approach moving forward, and it gets us to be caught up with campus and honestly with the rest of the industry. This is one of those things that's huge. We can now job cost just like anybody else in the free world. So with that, I want to thank these guys specifically for taking the time. we'll cut you loose, but if you have questions, please come up.
Is valid now?
Thank you.